We got Chicago, Pittsburgh, 61-62. Pittsburgh laying -140 to -145. Total 6 across the board. I'm going to give Dana a chance to talk about this game because it's one of the bigger games, even though it's not on his list of games because, to be honest with you, I need a drink of water pretty soon. We've got Chicago and Pittsburgh situation here where we've got a big revenge angle going, and this is a good one to bring Dane into the discussion to talk about it. It's everyone's talking about, and I heard this on the VSiN network the other day on some show. I heard that when they were talking hockey, saying, "Oh, the big revenge spot is here now for the Pittsburgh Penguins after the Chicago Blackhawks absolutely ambushed them 10-1." On what, the second night of the season it was way back in October. Yeah, but, revenge to me in the regular season is a little bit overblown. It's not the preeminent handicapping factor for me in any single hockey game, no matter how bad a loss was previously to this season. The bottom line is, do you still want to lay this kind of price with Pittsburgh? Revenge be damned. I think it's all about still the spot, the scheduling, current form, who's playing well, who's getting good goaltending, who's not. Those are the factors that mean a lot more than, Pittsburgh lost 10-1 to Chicago. They're going to win this game now. It's revenge. No. You got to look at way more factors than that. If you're hanging your betting hat on revenge as your number one reason to bet a game, find another angle. Find another factor to bet and reason to bet it. Because I think you can't make it that simple. And oftentimes in the NHL, that if you're hanging your hat on revenge, it's not going to come through for you. How many times do people bet the Stanley Cup Finals revenge angle or the playoff revenge angle, and they're not going to win that first game since the playoff series against the team that beat them? That's not always going to happen, so you got to be careful with that. But it's a big game. Obviously, Pittsburgh does remember that, but I think it's a price that I was hoping for, something not quite this extravagant here on Pittsburgh, but I can understand that case, but just be careful if that's the sole reason you're betting Pittsburgh here in this game. It's still Chicago team that's a capable group, even though they've been frustrating. There's been games where their offense has just fallen off a cliff, and then there's been times where their defense has fallen off a cliff. So Chicago's one of those teams that game to game starting to get a picture of not knowing what to expect from them every single night out. So they're a tough team for me to bet on or against, and a tough team to handicap right now. How about with you, Dana? Chicago, Pittsburgh. For me, these are very tough teams to handicap this year. There's been very little consistency. What are you looking at here in this big Blackhawk Penguin showdown tonight?
Well, Ian, you make a lot of good points, and this is what happens when you have 3 hours sleep. So this is the best I could look after 3 hours. But you make a good point about this revenge factor, and not only the revenge factor, guys, but the fact that people have the need to bet these big games. And honestly, the bigger the game, the smaller the edge between the two teams. I really never want to go into a situation where I feel like I have two teams that are completely equal to each other. And in this case, I'm being asked to lay $1.35, $1.40. But, honestly, I looked at games where, today, Washington and Minnesota, I think I have an advantage with one of those two teams. And I certainly don't think that I do with Pittsburgh or Chicago as much as I do on the other games on the card. And, like you're talking about, the need to win or the revenge factor. Well, honestly, revenge is a big deal to us, but revenge really only matters for about 3 minutes after the puck is dropped. So it's really not a factor. In fact, I think the Blackhawks have beaten Pittsburgh 7 straight times. So, obviously revenge is not that big of a deal. If revenge was the factor, then, the Arizona Coyotes, who pretty much have a revenge chip on their shoulder against everybody in the league, would come back and win games. Revenge is great, and the do factor is great, and motivation is great, which we talk about all the time. But the fact of the matter is, that's where the handicapping starts. If Team A is motivated to beat Team B because Team B beat them last time, that's one thing. But the handicapping starts when you have to actually look at Team A and say, well, you made me motivated to win games or to beat Team B because they beat you 10-0 last time. But do you have the horses to actually to do it? So that's where the handicapping comes in. But as far as this game is concerned, this is a Penguins team I'm still extremely high on. I am not, I stayed with them last year. I've said it for 2.5 months that they were going to win the cup, despite the fact that they lost Chris Letang and they were losing guys left and right. But you still have a top line of Rust and Crosby and Gensel, second line of Kessel and Malkin and Hagelin. I mean, those are really tough guys to go against and put my money against, just because I think that I want the Chicago Blackhawks with plus money. And you brought it up earlier, and I'm giving you a big long opportunity to drink as much as you can, but you brought it up earlier, but guys saying, oh, I got value. Well, what kind of value are you getting with losers? I have no problem laying $1.30 or $1.40 when I have an edge over another team. I'm not going to go play a plus money underdog and walk around and say I have value. I mean, I don't even really understand that term. Maybe in terms of what you thought it was versus what it is, that's where your value comes from. But I'm certainly not walking around trying to look for plus money underdogs of teams that are inferior to the favorites. So to me, I stay away from this game. There's too many stars involved, too many guys that are of equal value versus each other on either team. I just look, there's too big of a card to have to zero in on a game where two teams are exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, two of the better teams in the NHL the last decade, for sure, when you talk about it in terms of success. Chicago, Pittsburgh, there's been a lot of cups won between those two franchises since 2010. But in the Chicago case, you just wonder if they're still at that level. I'm not sure they are. Pittsburgh is. I mean, Pittsburgh's, and I've said this over and over again, the regular seasons have no consequence to them, none, zero. They're looking at long-term goals. They're looking at the playoffs. They're looking at, that's when you're going to see Pittsburgh turn it up a little bit, probably. Once we get to the postseason, once we get closer to the playoffs, they're going to have games where they just sort of go through the motions between now and April. That's just the way it is. When you've won 2 cups, just ask the Warriors and Cavs in the NBA, any of those teams like that, even New England, the Patriots in the NFL, they're going to have times where in the regular season, they're sort of looking a little choppy, but when the going gets tough and the playoffs arrive, look out. That's not the time you probably want to be facing them. That could be the case here with Pittsburgh.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.